lines, just $30 each. Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. All eyes are on Wall Street today after a major stock sell-off yesterday. All three major stock indices fell at least 2% in response to tariffs set forth by President Donald Trump. It was the worst day of the year for both the Dow and S&P 500, and the Nasdaq Composite posted its biggest single-day decline since September 2022. A spending plan vote could come as early as today. The plan would increase defense spending by about $6 billion, while domestic spending would drop by about $13 billion. Trump has endorsed the measure. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has urged Democrats to oppose the plan. If a bill is not passed, the government will shut down at 11:59 Friday night. Today marks 5 years since COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, more than 7 million have died since the designation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Saudi Arabia to discuss a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. He warned Ukraine must cede territory to Russia in any viable peace deal. A Ukrainian delegation is expected to propose a ceasefire and the release of prisoners. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had a, quote, very good meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince yesterday. That's your Spectrum News in 90.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. We have beautiful spring-like weather from the central U.S. to the East Coast, where high temperatures are going to be running over 20 degrees above the average in a few spots. We'll be at 73 Kansas City, 78 in Memphis, middle 70s from Raleigh to Atlanta. Make plans to get outside this afternoon. But across the western half of the country, we have some unsettled weather to talk about. We'll break that down for you coming up in 10 minutes.
I'm Bree Driscoll, and thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. Today is Tuesday, March 11th. Our top story, all eyes are on Wall Street this morning after a major stock sell-off yesterday in response to tariffs set forth by President Donald Trump. And cracks are forming elsewhere. Layoffs are mounting, hiring is slowing, consumer confidence is eroding, and inflation is picking up. It was the worst day of the year for both the Dow and S&P 500, and the Nasdaq Composite posted its biggest single-day decline since September of 2022. In other economic news, a spending plan vote could come as early as today. Trump has endorsed the deal, though House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and his leadership team have urged Democrats to oppose the plan. If a bill is not passed, the government will shut down at 11:59 Friday night. Spectrum's Angie Gonzalez joins us now with more. Angie, what is the White House saying about the markets?
Well, the Trump administration, Bree, is essentially saying that investors' feelings about the market can have an impact on things, but what they are more concerned about is what they are seeing from businesses and business leaders in terms of investments. But that may not be reassuring, I guess you would say, to those watching the markets, as all three major indexes closed down on Monday. And this comes after each of them dropped by more than 2% for the week last week. Now, the markets took a turn last week amid uncertainty about new U.S. tariffs on goods coming from Canada, Mexico, and China. And after they went into effect, President Trump did temporarily pause some of those tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. But Bree, an interview with President Trump also seems to be a big factor in what we saw on Monday. He did not rule out the possibility of a recession, and that did apparently have an impact on the markets yesterday. Bree.
And Angie, there's also economic uncertainty over whether Congress can avoid a partial government shutdown. Where do things stand with the budget?
Well, it's very close. Republicans do have control of the House, Senate, and White House, but they have a very tight majority in the lower chamber. So only a few no votes from GOP members could derail everything. And as of right now, we do know of a few Republicans who plan to vote no or are undecided. So House Speaker Mike Johnson would need some Democrats on board to make sure that the budget passes before midnight on Friday. Now, right now, Johnson and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries do not seem to be on the same page, as Jeffries says they're recommending the Democrats oppose the current spending plan.
I can't imagine if they would just tell everyone to vote against funding the government when they are all on video 1,000 times saying that would be a great calamity for the country.
The House Republican so-called spending bill does nothing to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
So, Bree, if Republicans can't sway members of their own party who currently oppose the plan or get any Democratic support, a shutdown could force essential government employees to work without pay. It could also disrupt airport security, border crossings, and national parks, as well as other areas of the federal government. Bree.
All right, Angie Gonzalez, thank you very much. At least one person is dead and others injured in what appears to be the largest drone attack on Russia in 3 years. The attack coming as talks between the U.S. and Ukraine begin in Saudi Arabia about ending the war with Russia. Spectrum's Jenny Enoch has the latest.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky arriving in Saudi Arabia, meeting with officials there. While Zelensky isn't taking part in the high-stakes talks, his team is with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the goal to end the Russia-Ukraine war. But just hours before this, the Russian military said its air defenses shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 Russian regions overnight in what appears to be the biggest Ukrainian drone attack on Russia in 3 years. The attack killed one person and wounded several others, damaging 7 apartments in a residential building. Ukraine is meeting with America's top diplomat to talk about a ceasefire.
There are big meetings coming up, as you know, in Saudi Arabia. That's going to include Russia. It'll be Ukraine. We'll see if we can get something done. I'd like to get something done. A lot of people died this week, as you know, in Ukraine. Not only Ukrainians, but Russians. So I think everybody wants to see it get done. We're going to make a lot of progress, I believe, this week.
The talks in Saudi Arabia reflect a new diplomatic push after an unprecedented argument erupted during President Zelensky's February visit to the White House. No immediate comment from Ukrainian officials on the attack as Rubio and his delegation prepare to meet with Zelensky's team. Officials also say Kyiv is ready to sign an agreement with the U.S. on access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, a deal Trump is looking to lock down. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
Well, it has been 5 years since the World Health Organization declared the spread of COVID-19 a pandemic. Now the virus has become endemic or regularly occurring on every continent. Health officials warn that even though COVID-19 has become an established respiratory virus like the seasonal flu, it will continue to be fatal for some. Our Katie Capusta followed up with one mother who gave birth to her son in 2020 while battling COVID on a ventilator.
The Razak household is filled with lots of laughs and toys and, of course, kisses. But 5 years ago, it looked a little different inside these walls. Alicia Cappers gave birth to her youngest son, Laith, 8 weeks early while battling COVID on a ventilator.
It was hard at first when I first came over from the hospital because I was still so weak. I felt like I couldn't care for my newborn child.
But it almost feels like those 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Laith growing up,
I'm 4.
Celebrating his 5th birthday in a few weeks.
April 1st.
Seems like it happened recently. I mean, it's been 5 years, and it's crazy that you mentioned that it doesn't seem like that much time has passed.
While Laith is still young, he's been told some stories about his eventful entrance into the world.
I couldn't breathe when I was in the hospital.
They helped you breathe, but you were pretty healthy.
And while Alicia still grapples with her near-death experience, she says she's so glad she was able to persevere.
I'm so grateful that I'm here and I get to watch this little guy grow up.
And Laith is too, loving on his mom with all his hugs and kisses.
She loves Lacey hugs and she loves kisses.
Who loves it right back.
Lacey hug.
Oh, Lacey hug. It's my favorite. My favorite thing in the whole wide world.
For Spectrum News, I'm Katie Capusta.
Coming up here on Spectrum News, a major health update for Pope Francis, what doctors are saying as the 88-year-old continues treatment for double pneumonia.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. An unsettled start to the week across the southeastern United States as a wave of low pressure tracked through, bringing rain for a good clip of our Monday. And it really added up around the Carolinas into northern Georgia, where we had around an inch and a half, some spots picking up around 2 inches in southeastern North Carolina. And this was very much needed given how dry it's been of late. The last several weeks have been pretty dry, which has allowed for moderate to severe drought conditions to return to this part of the country. Unfortunately, this is the one chance for rain this week. We'll see our rain chances picking up by the weekend. This area of low pressure is going to push off to the east, and we have high pressure building in, allowing for plenty of sunshine. Temperatures well above the average. Some spots in the central U.S. are going to be running about 25 degrees above the average for this time of year. Nice taste of spring in store for us, but out west, that's where things are going to stay a bit unsettled. We've got another area of low pressure working its way into Southern California. This is going to ramp up rain chances in a place like Los Angeles, not only today, but for the rest of this week for that matter as well. This is going to be a multi-day event where rain chances really start to build in. And I want to show you the water vapor imagery because you can really see this area of low pressure bringing in that moisture into Southern California. Definitely going to be an unsettled week across this part of the country. And you'll see that with Futurecast, those showers really picking up. And we'll even see some snow showers for some of the higher elevations in the Pacific Northwest, through the Cascades, and of course in the Sierra Nevadas as well. But that moisture coming in from the Pacific, and it's really going to be bringing in periods of heavy rainfall across California, all the way through Oregon and Washington as well, where we could easily see 1 to 2 inches of rainfall fall in many of those communities. And it's been very dry of late as well in Southern California, and we're adding about an inch and a half 1.5, close to 2 inches in some of those spots as we get towards the end of the week. But overall, though, unsettled across Los Angeles. Temperatures are going to be much cooler as a result as well, but we have a nice taste of spring in store for us. We're talking highs close to 90 in Houston as we get towards the end of the weekend. We have potential record-breaking temperatures to talk about as well. We'll break that down for you coming up in 10 minutes on your Weather on the Ones.
Look at what you need to know this morning. All eyes on Wall Street after a major stock sell-off yesterday in response to tariffs set forth by President Trump. All three major stock indices fell at least 2%. A spending plan vote could come as early as today. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and his leadership team have urged Democrats to oppose the plan. If a bill is not passed, the government will shut down at 11:59 Friday night. And today marks 5 years since COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, according to the World Health Organization. More than 7 million have died globally since the designation. And that's a look at what you need to know. Protesters take over the streets of Manhattan after a Columbia University student who helped lead last year's pro-Palestinian protests was arrested by ICE. Hundreds of protesters came out to support Mahmoud Khalid, who is a lawful U.S. resident and a former grad student at the Ivy League school. He was detained Saturday and flown to an immigration jail in Louisiana. President Donald Trump warns this arrest and possible deportation would be the first of many to come as his administration cracks down on campus demonstrations. A federal judge in New York ordered Khalil not to be deported while the court considers a legal challenge. This as the case is drawing outrage from protesters.
I wish I could say surprise, but it wasn't. It was just horror and like deep dread because I knew this sort of thing would start to happen. It's just when it actually does start to happen, it's horrifying.
People recognize this is an escalation of, unfortunately, like it says on my sign, of fascism in the United States. This is a very dangerous step.
A hearing on Khalil's case is scheduled for tomorrow. 1.6 million supporters have signed a petition demanding his release. After nearly a month in the hospital, the Vatican says Pope Francis is improving. An update yesterday revealing the Pope is no longer in, quote, imminent danger. In recent weeks, the 88-year-old leader of the church has suffered several setbacks while battling pneumonia in both lungs. Despite the latest positive prognosis, there is no timeline for when he may be released from the hospital. He will continue to receive oxygen therapy in the meantime. Airports and air travel took a big hit during the pandemic 5 years ago. Flights and terminals were lightly used as both leisure and business travel were curtailed through much of 2020. But over the past 5 years, the number of travelers has rebounded, and airports are reporting passenger numbers similar to 2019. Appleton International Airport in Wisconsin set a record in 2024 for the number of travelers getting on and off of flights at that location at 1.8 million.
Never hit 1 million passengers prior to last year, and we're not stopping there. We're expanding. We have our 3 gates will be open for the draft in our new section, and our whole project is looking to be done here at the end of 2025 or possibly early 26.
The airport expects additional flights for the week of the NFL draft in April. A new report says most of the world has dirty air, with just 17% of cities globally meeting air pollution guidelines. Spectrum's Katie Streit has the story.
It's a somewhat polluted issue, air quality that is. It's a problem not only touching the U.S., but globally. IQ Air, a Switzerland-based air quality monitoring database, analyzed data from 40,000 air quality monitoring stations in 138 countries. The results are mucky.
The key findings for this year's report is that we've seen some improvements in many parts of the world. Unfortunately, those improvements were relatively small.
Frank Hames with IQ Air Global says places like Pakistan and India are stagnant when it comes to air quality, but North America has seen improvements due to less wildfire activity. Much of the reason behind the contaminated air is due to burning fossil fuels.
We're seeing that slight improvements are being made. Mostly those are coming, though, from the very developed countries, right, where you see the transition from combustion engines in transportation to electric vehicles. I think we're seeing some of that, and where we see some of the power generation now switching over to cleaner sources.
Poor air quality isn't just bad for the environment. It can be detrimental to people's health.
We normally associate air pollution to respiratory illness, right? That's what the general public normally thinks of. But air pollution affects more than just your lungs. And the second is that some air pollutants are classified as carcinogens, so basically cancer-causing.
The World Health Organization estimates air pollution kills around 7 million people each year. They found that 99% of the world's population lives in places that don't meet recommended air quality levels. Katie Strait, Spectrum News.
An up-close look at our national bird and the new baby eaglets just born. Just ahead on Spectrum News, how you can watch all the action.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. Our attention shifts to the western coast after an unsettled start to the week across the southeast with an area of low pressure. Another one developing out west, which will bring periods of rainfall across California and to the Pacific Northwest. And that will lead to some rain and snow chances for some of the higher elevations where we could easily pick up over a foot of snow. Across the rest of the country, though, we are going to be dry and quiet with high pressure dominating our weather pattern, allowing for some spring-like weather to take shape. Temperatures are going to be about 20 degrees above the average in some spots in the Midwest. But as we get towards the end of this week, we are going to see a risk for severe thunderstorms picking up as a pretty strong storm system gets set to develop. And I'll touch on that here in just a moment, but we have quiet weather to look forward to across the central U.S. and to the eastern coast. An area of low pressure is going to continue to slide off the Carolina coast. This brought around 1 to 2 inches of rainfall over the course of the day on Monday. It was a soggy and cool start to the week. We're bouncing back pretty nicely for our Tuesday. But over the next couple of days, the west coast is where things are going to stay pretty active with moisture coming in from the Pacific. Lots of moisture leading to some snowfall over a foot in some of the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevadas and, of course, the Cascades in the Pacific Northwest. Watch what happens as we get towards the end of the week, though. Our storm system develops late Friday, and this will bring us that risk in a place like St. Louis through Illinois, down through Arkansas as well. And then that risk for severe thunderstorms shifts more towards the deep south as we get into the day on Saturday afternoon. Alabama, Mississippi, down through Louisiana, same spots that we're dealing with some severe thunderstorms last week. We'll be dealing with it once again again for our Saturday. And then that same storm system progresses towards the east coast for our Sunday, bringing a damaging wind and isolated tornado threat as well. As far as rainfall totals go, we've noticed things are going to stay pretty quiet and uneventful from down through Kansas, Oklahoma, into Texas, but that moisture associated with that storm system could lead to an additional 2+ inches of rainfall in areas that could really use it. But of course, the hot spot this week is going to be out west, where some areas along the western coast of Oregon and Washington and Northern California could easily exceed over 3 to 4 inches, given the moisture setup coming in from the Pacific. Now let's talk about those temperatures, because it is going to be pretty mild, almost into the lower 80s by the end of the week in Kansas City. That is over 22 degrees above the average for this time of year. We're going to have a nice taste of spring all across the southeast as well. Just take a look at this. 23 and 24 degrees above the average, 26 degrees above the average in the northern plains. Nice and spring-like, but it doesn't stick around after we get into early next week.
Despite its name, Big Bear, California is home to some of the largest eagles in the country. Because not everyone can see them firsthand, one organization has created a tool that makes them accessible from anywhere in the world. Here's Spectrum's Christopher G. with more.
Two of Big Bear's most beloved residents are quickly becoming the talk of the town. They are Jackie and Shadow, a bald eagle couple who just saw the miraculous hatching of their eaglet offspring this week. And the world is getting unprecedented views of this part of the eagle's life cycle through a live webcam maintained by the nonprofit Friends of Big Bear Valley. The Natural History Museum's Moses Aubrey is one of those watching with great excitement, as he says it's rare to see in such close-up detail how eagles care for their young.
This year, they managed to have young, and it's just really incredible to see them do so. It will be extra incredible to see them grow up and fledge and leave the nest, which takes a couple of months.
Moses explains that Mom and Dad have been working nonstop to feed the eaglets and incubating them to keep them at a stable temperature, which ensures their survival, as several storm fronts have been bringing wind and snow to the area.
So it's a lot of hard work doing this, because while one parent is on top of the eggs, the other parent has to be actively hunting to provide enough food for not only that bird itself, but the bird that is also incubating.
The Friends of Big Bear Valley live webcam has drummed up much excitement and awareness about wildlife conservation, especially after Jackie and Shadow's eggs from last year did not hatch, explains Care for Big Bears Sarah Schacht.
It's like eagle season. It's a very exciting time. It's the nesting season. This is the second year in a row that we've gotten 3 eggs. Last year was the first time ever for this particular pair of eagles.
And Sarah explains there will be opportunity for public input on naming the new eaglets.
School kids, the 3rd grade class, traditionally votes on the final names, and that's how our eagles get their name every year.
Although bald eagle numbers were in decline in the 20th century due to pollution and deforestation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service now shows that the population in the U.S. has quadrupled since 2009.
It really speaks to just how resilient they are and how really incredible they are. So it's really inspiring to watch them.
And now the world will continue to watch with fascination to see what happens next in the saga of Jackie and Shadow and their new family. Christopher G., Spectrum News.
And if you want to see what these amazing birds are up to, you can watch the live nest cam yourself on the Friends of Big Bear Valley website. And you can watch us here at Spectrum News on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
It's
game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
To show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say.
Save it. It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.